Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Cancer Support Community Central Ohio's Natural Living Workshop with community herbalist Lily Kunning. We are smack dab in the middle of National Volunteer Week for 2025. So I want to publicly thank Lily for volunteering her time to do this. I think, Lily, that I met you when I first started here in 2020. So you've been volunteering with us, I know, even before I came on board. So we are greatly thankful for your staying with us and volunteering your time and your expertise and sharing these wonderful sessions that you give us in Natural Living Workshop. And today, Lily will be talking about spring cleaning. So I'm going to be quiet now and I will keep an eye on the chat in the weight room. So thank you, Lily, and welcome.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, volunteering for cancer support community has been something that I have thoroughly enjoyed all these years. So happy to do this every month. And I want to put in a plug that if you have a topic that you would like to see addressed by an herbalist or a holistic practitioner, please let Darlene know. Because I'm always looking to meet people where they're at and serve people in the best way I can. Um, I can come up with topics, but you really should let me know what you want to hear about and what you want to learn about. But today we're going to learn about spring cleaning, specifically what is in our homes that is not clean and how we get it clean, right? That word detox is thrown around a lot, which is a weird code word these days for weight loss and like all kinds of ascetic practices. But that is not what I'm talking about. I'm literally talking about detoxifying your home of chemicals that are harmful, right? And that includes your body because you live in your home. So let me get started with a screen share. Everybody see it? I hope so. And I need to move this. Yeah, there we go. This menu. Um, one thing that everyone should know is that in the United States, indoor air pollution is higher than outdoor air pollution. Yes, factories, belch exhaust into the sky and they dump things into the water or the soil. But because of the kinds of products that we bring into our home, um, indoor air pollution is actually quite high. And it's the one place, right? I want to reiterate this many times in this session. Your home and your body are yours, and it's the one place you can control. So, hopefully, this session will teach you about some of the things that you should look for when deciding to bring something new into your home, and things that you should avoid. So let's just start. I mentioned that this whole word detox often talks about weight loss, and that is not what I'm talking about here. And I just want to say that, especially to this group of people who are cancer survivors and their caregivers, that there's no one standard of health that is good for all bodies. And when I work with my clients, we work with where they're at and we get them to the next level each time of functionality, of happiness, of, having less pain, that sort of thing. The idea that there is one ideal kind of body out there is oppressive. And I just want to say that. This is a quote from someone who I know and love very dearly, Sonia Renee Taylor. And if you haven't read her book, The Body is Not an Apology, especially when you're dealing with all kinds of illness and body stuff, I highly recommend it. It's such a good book. But yes, let's talk about your body because under normal circumstances, this idea of detoxing your body is not necessary because your liver and your lymph exist to cleanse your body and purge it of any kind of thing that should not be there. But I just want to say that Americans don't live under normal circumstances. Um, we surround ourselves with all kinds of toxic chemicals. And these are in our food and water, our air and soil, in the way we build our homes and furnish them, the cleaning supplies we use to clean our homes, and even body care. And I have a whole separate session on body care that I often do for cancer support community. So keep an eye out for that. I do these on the last Tuesday of the month. Often in the US, products are infused with chemicals that are banned in other countries. Um, because in other countries, their public health organizations put public health first. In our country, there needs to be an onus that the loss of potential profit to a company is worth taking something off the market or banning something. We also make companies themselves do the safety testing. I don't know if you know this, but like when you think that something's approved and on the market by the FDA, for example, the FDA doesn't do those tests. And there's no independent body that does. Those companies submit their tests themselves. And frankly, most of our agencies are underfunded and understaffed, and they don't have the ability to double check those results. And so what happens is we have things on the market that are potentially harmful. And until people start getting really hurt and it becomes obvious that there is a connection, is anything done about those products or those ingredients? So it's really caveat emptor, buyer beware here in the United States, which is why I'm so glad you're here because there's a lot of things to learn about, and I don't want to overwhelm you. So we're going to make sure that you have access to the recording on Zoom. I'm going to send my slide deck to y'all so that you can go over it and just reread it in your own time. And inside the deck are some embedded links for you to start doing research on different kinds of things that might be in your home. Um, but the reason that this is so dangerous, a lot of times when you talk to companies, they're like, sure, there's a toxicity level of this ingredient, but when you look at the lab studies on this ingredient, it's really not that bad. But they're not taking into account that we are flooded with all kinds of products and surrounded all the time by chemicals. And there is no study that takes into account all the things that we're exposed to and how they rest inside our body. The way that they rest inside our body is called bioaccumulation. So all of these chemicals, particularly ones that are carcinogens and endocrine disruptors, which are the main ones that I'm going to talk about today, they get stored in the fat cells of our bodies. Um, and when they are stored there, they just keep being stored, and eventually your body cannot cope. I am a firm believer in environmental causes of things like cancer and autoimmune disease. That's not to say there's not a genetic predisposition component. However, you know, you can't turn on the car without the key, right? So, like, we need to try and reduce what we're exposed to. And while we are fighting our government to protect us, we can make individual choices that we are not going to bring these things into our home and we are not going to consume these things. Um, so when the FDA speaks of acceptable levels of arsenic or lead or whatever, it's a myth because you may be exposed to a certain level of lead in this particular product, but then there are all the other products, right? Um, so we're kind of at a tipping point here in the United States. We have really polluted our environment and our food supply, and we need to start making individual choices because it's all us. There is no superhero coming to save us. We are the superhero. We need to save ourselves. Um, so, as I said, companies do their own research and testing and submit it to the FDA. Now, you should know that the way that things are approved is there's a very short list of banned chemicals in the United States, and there are a lot bigger lists in other countries. But a product cannot contain any of those chemicals. But if it doesn't, even if it has suspected carcinogens or suspected endocrine disruptors, they are allowed, right? They are allowed to go onto the market. So, I have been doing this and other people have been doing this, teaching these kinds of classes to show you what to avoid. Um, but I will tell you that as the knowledge grows about what to avoid, companies often change their tactics to keep their formulas the same so that they don't have to redo the testing. Because anytime they change their formula, they need to redo testing and submit it to the FDA, which can be costly. And then, of course, change their packaging and stuff. So they do all kinds of underhanded things in order not to spend more money and to keep their profit margins high. Now, most exposures that you're going to get to toxins are through the lungs and the skin, particularly when you're talking about cleaning supplies, right? The skin is not a total barrier. We used to think that, but 75 to 90% of what gets put on your skin goes into your body, either in your skin, your fat cells, or your bloodstream, depending on the molecular weight of the chemical. And we'll talk about molecular weight in a second because woo, it can get a little thing. But I also wanted to point out that when you get this deck, the EWG consumer guides, that is a link. Environmental Working Group is a nonprofit organization, and they spend their time and money and energy researching toxins in our country in consumer goods. And so they have one on cosmetics and beauty care products called Skin Deep. They have a whole database that you can search. You can search by product or brand. You can search by chemical and learn. And they make it really easy to figure out if your product is clean or not. They give it like a school grade, A through F. And then they tell you exactly why, right? They're not just going to tell you, it's an F. They're going to tell you why it's an F, what chemical is the problem, what that chemical does, and how to avoid it. Um, and then the lungs, of course, gas exchange in the lungs. When we breathe things in, as the air goes into the lungs, it gets passed into the bloodstream in the pleura of the lungs. It's where we swap out oxygen for carbon dioxide. But if we're taking in air, which includes oxygen, but it also has particulates of chemicals, we're taking those in and they go through our body uh, through the blood mobile, right? So here's molecular weight. Um, excuse me, I'm got allergies and I'm a little phlegmy today. So if you think about phytochemicals or any chemicals for that matter, um, as like a little dot, and your skin is this sort of grid here. Um, Molecular weight is a set of assigned numbers based on how heavy a molecule or atom that substance is. Now, hydrogen is one, it's tiny. But if you have a molecular weight less than 3,000, that chemical enters the skin. If it's less than 750, it enters the skin cell. And less than 300, and it can go straight into the bloodstream, right? Now, this can be used for good as well, right? Like all of those medicinal patches, whether they're nicotine patches or pain relief patches, those are based on this science, right? We know that certain substances can go directly into the bloodstream to help treat people without them having to take pills, because not everybody is in a condition to swallow, right? So we can do things topically. And that's really super helpful. But it also means that you need to be aware of this and know what's in your products. What you bring into your home gets into your body, whether it's meant to be put on your body or not. So, cleaning products are not food or beverages or drugs. So, they are not regulated by the FDA. The EPA is the agency in the government that would look at an ingredients list and determine if something needs to be banned or regulated. And again, that list is pretty small in the United States. It's much bigger in Europe or Asia. Um, but yeah, so that is how things are regulated here, and that is how molecular weight works. Um, but let's talk about what we can control, right? What are you bringing into your home? What kind of cleaning products? What kind of cosmetics? What kind of appliances and furniture? Do you bring pesticides or herbicides into your home? Are you spraying Roundup around your house to get rid of weeds? Hey man, weeds are the best plants. Don't kill weeds. That's just an herbalist talking, just telling you. Plastics, right? We now know that single-use plastics are killing us, killing the environment, and microplastics are in almost every body, and they cause problems. So the more plastics you can eliminate from your life, get yourself a reusable water bottle, use reusable shopping bags, and don't bring home those single use shopping bags. Um, try and avoid food that's packaged in plastic. Try and avoid body care that's packaged in plastic. I know that that seems difficult at times because we have really just done a number of putting everything in plastics. I say we, but I mean they, because they are the ones who are using plastics because they are cheap and increase their profit margin. I would much rather go into a place and buy something in metal or paperboard or glass. But the options are limited, right? So we need to be paying attention to how we do things. And sometimes it's not, sometimes it's a simple substitution. And sometimes it means like changing our shopping habits or, doing a little bit more research before we buy something. And none of those things are hard. They're just different, right? They require a different mindset. Um, Also, do you have water filtration and air filtration in your home? Now, most people have filters on their HVAC system if you have an HVAC system, but some filtration is better than others, right? Like there are the cheap filters that you can get, but also there are the HEPA filters that will, filter out a lot more. You want to think about that and you want to think about water filtration. And you don't need to invest in a hugely expensive, like under the sink reverse osmosis contraption to get some good water filtration, right? I'm a big fan of Berkey, Berkey, Berkey filters. It's a stainless steel tower with a stainless steel spigot, and they have filters that you buy and replace. And you can do the basic filters, which are the carbon filters. They also have ones that are even more effective at removing heavy metals that you can add to it. And literally, it's a gravity fed system. You pour whatever water source you have in there, and it drips through to where the spigot is. The filters last 6 months. They are expensive. They're a couple $100, but they last 6 months. Unlike those Brita filters, which are full of plastic and in a plastic container. So I'm a big fan of Berkey because again, I'm looking to eliminate any plastics I can from my life because all plastics eventually become microplastics. So think about your garage and the outdoors if you've got, an outdoor living space. Um, Toxics that you've stored in your garage to kind of get them out of the house, leftover paint, um, pesticides, chemical fertilizers, any of those things. You want to get rid of that, and you're going to have to do it if you want to do it responsibly through hazardous waste disposal, right? Usually, there's like one time a month or a drop off in any given community. Now, in Columbus, I believe that there's a drop off that you can do anytime, but also you can call for pickup, I think twice a year for hazardous chemicals, and they will pick them up and they will dispose of them properly. Not that there's any such thing as a way, just, you know, once we consume those things and we bring them in our house, we've sort of taken responsibility for putting them into the environment. Um, so what we want to do is to purge our homes. And like I said, that EWG link is super helpful. I would start one room at a time after this session. Look underneath your kitchen sink. What's there, right? Look in your garage. What's there? Look in your basement. What's there? Look under, in your bathroom, all of these things. And you can do that for all the products in your home. And it is a big project, but if you go one step at a time, it can be pretty empowering. I had a friend recently decide like they're going to get rid of all the plastic utensils in their house, right? Already had gotten rid of their nonstick skillets because those are toxic. They are carcinogenic. So you get rid of that Teflon kind of nonstick coating, and then you don't need the plastic utensils anymore because the plastic utensils are just contributing to microplastics. So she went through, it took her a couple months, right? Like, because you have to replace the thing so that you have the thing before you toss the thing or, give it to the thrift shop or whatever. Took her a couple months, but oh man, she was so proud of herself after she was done. She's like, I don't have any plastic in my kitchen. And I was like, good, that's awesome. Because you should feel good about that, right? Like it is an accomplishment to do that, to know these things and to act on these things. So there's lots of alternatives for what you can do. We started talking about the garage and outdoors. Um, you can obtain natural predators that actually are beneficial for your garden, like ladybugs and praying mantises. You can buy big bags of ladybugs, and I know that at the Clintonville Farmers Market seasonally, they do offer little pods of praying mantises that will hatch and come out of your garden. And I think praying mantises are so spooky and neat. They're just the weirdest alien little creatures. So I would totally let them loose in my garden. Yeah, and there's a lot of different ways that you can reduce your need for any toxics like companion or interplanting. Letting weeds grow and finding out what they're good for. I'm a big fan of that as an herbalist. Most of the things that you're pulling out actually have medicinal properties, and I would be happy to teach you all about that. Maybe that's a new session that we do is these are the things commonly found in yards, and these are the things that they're good for. That might be a fun class. But there's lots of different ways that you can eliminate your need for toxins in the garage and outdoors. Look up a product and its ingredients before you bring it home and research alternatives. And, we live in the internet age now. So it's like natural alternative to blank, right? Take a look at the lists. All kinds of cleaning products that are nasty. So things to avoid in your cleaning products. Anything that has antibacterial ingredients. Because I'll tell you, soap just by itself, just plain old soap, is antibacterial. It kills bacteria. You do not need things like triclosan um, added to things because what you're doing is you're contributing to antibiotic resistance. You're making superbugs that our antibiotics won't be able to kill. So, that goes for buying products that are infused with antibiotics. It's really annoying to me that I see like baby changing tables infused with antibiotics in public restrooms or hand soap that says antibacterial or cutting boards for our food infused with antibiotics, meaning not only are we getting plastics, microplastics from like chopping on a top of a plastic cutting board, but also antibiotics into our food, which kills our gut flora, right? Our microbiome that actually helps keep us healthy. So avoid all that stuff. Anything corrosive or caustic, and those chemicals are required to be labeled as such. There is a little icon that means corrosive. I think it's like a hand with like a drip on it, right? Like, it's going to burn you. So you definitely don't want to get chemical burns. Anything that is corrosive or caustic does not need to be in your home, and that includes bleach. Chlorine bleach is a toxin. And I know that most of us grew up with it in our homes. I know most of us use it for like the big guns of cleaning. Every time you use chlorine bleach, you create dioxin in the environment. It is cause and effect. Dioxin is a carcinogen. Um, you can use oxygen bleach. That doesn't cause dioxin. If you really feel like you need something that has bleaching power and something that makes things a lighter color, Use oxygen bleach and not chlorine. Um, Oven cleaners, ugh, those things are nasty. Also, the self-cleaning function on your stove, never use it because ovens are coated in non-stick coating, that Teflon, right? And when you do the self-cleaning, you are basically turning up the heat so high that that Teflon coating overheats, it off gases, and it puts toxins into the air. If you have pet birds in your house, they will die instantly from the self cleaning function in your oven. And you don't want to breathe that stuff either. You may not die instantly like a small bird with a small respiratory system, but it is affecting you adversely. So please do not use the self cleaning function on your oven. Um, Essential oils, I know that everyone's like, but they're natural, they come from plants. Um, yes, and they are not natural. The amount of phytochemicals that is compounded in that tiny bottle takes hundreds of pounds of, let's say, peppermint to make that little bottle of peppermint essential oil. You would never encounter that level of phytochemicals, of the narrow band of phytochemicals that are in that bottle in nature. It is overwhelming to your system, and it can cause um, what we call environmental illness when people are incredibly sensitive to chemicals and smells, so that they instantly get a headache or they need to, go lie down. Um, we've overwhelmed ourselves with all kinds of chemicals, synthetic and naturally sourced. And so it's just, why bring extra chemicals into your life when you don't need it? And you should never apply essential oils directly to your skin, um, because they need to be diluted either in a true lipid, an oil, or alcohol in order to be diluted. So if you're going to use essential oils, which again, I do not recommend, you will need to dilute them in some rubbing alcohol and use them as a spray or whatever. But instead of doing that, why don't you do what my friend just did? The one who eliminated all the plastic. She's like going through her whole house. She took orange peels. She had a bunch of orange peels left over from making fruit salad. She put them in white vinegar. She let it steep for a month, turned this beautiful orange color, and it smells amazing. And that is her surface cleaner now, right? Um, you can use the power of citrus, which is a very great solvent, put it in vinegar or rubbing alcohol, whichever you prefer, and get that the power of orange peel in there without having to buy something super spendy. And she found a glass spray bottle to put it in. Look at her go. She's doing great stuff. Um, More cleaning products to avoid. Anything that says fragrance or parfum, and this includes your body care products, because in the United States, fragrance is a proprietary thing. And so companies do not have to disclose the ingredients that are listed under fragrance. So if you're looking to avoid something and that company knows that, rather than changing their formula, all they have to do is sock it under fragrance. They don't have to submit any more tests. They don't have to do anything. They can just, all of a sudden it's gone. Oh, look, now this product is paraben free. No, it's not. It's in the fragrance, right? Anything that's labeled as an irritant, this can cause skin irritation, eye irritation, lung irritation. Why bother? There are plenty of things that you can use to clean your house that are not irritants. I mentioned vinegar, I mentioned rubbing alcohol, and I mentioned infusing botanicals into them. So my friend infused orange peels. I like to use thyme, fresh thyme from my garden. I put it in vinegar, and thyme kills more pathogens, viruses, bacteria, and fungus than bleach in lab studies. So you don't need bleach, you just need some time. Grow it yourself, put it in some vinegar, infuse it, and you've got such a great surface cleaner, right? If you cut raw chicken on a cutting board and you need to clean it, not only should you, scrub it with some baking soda, but then spray it down with some thyme vinegar, and you'll be great. Anything that's listed as an optical brightener um, are they're terrible for you. They're in a lot of commercial laundry detergents. They are highly toxic to aquatic life, but not just aquatic life, terrestrial life too. They just have this direct correlation because our wastewater goes into waterways. Um, Now, you really just want to avoid anything listed as an optical brightener. So look at your laundry detergent, make sure that there are no chemicals in there like that because they're toxic. Any kind of surfactants. So soap is a surfactant, but what I'm talking about are specific chemicals like nonylphenol ethoxylates. That's a mouthful. Or sodium lauryl sulfate, right? These things, help to release oils, but they're also really corrosive. They will cause blistering to the skin or the scalp. And ironically, sodium lauryl sulfate is used in shampoos and in toothpastes in the United States that are commercially found because they create lather. And people equate lather with getting clean. And actually, you don't need the lather to get clean. Like, that is not what is necessary. But there are safer surfactants like Castile soap that you can find in the EWG guide to healthy cleaning. But yeah, corrosive. It's so funny. I find it funny when they put SLS, sodium lauryl sulfate, in dandruff shampoo because what it does is it causes the skin layers to separate. It causes dandruff, but it's in dandruff shampoo. Why? Who knows? Anyway, you also want to do a home audit of your construction and furnishings. Um, so, indoor air, like I said, is more polluted than outdoor air. And a lot of times we're bringing it in ourselves, right? Like, yes, you can't really help how your home was constructed. Um, but if you can avoid, if you're in the market for a home, avoid anything with plastic lumber. A lot of times they're trying to frame this as an eco build, right? Oh, we took all this old plastic and we recycled it into lumber, and now it's all your window frames. Well, what they don't tell you is that if your home, heaven forbid, ever catches on fire and those things start melting, toxic chemicals are going into the air, which lessen your chances of getting out of your home alive. Not great. So avoid plastic lumber. Also, the kinds of carpets and flooring that you bring in, a lot of them have toxic chemicals in them. And if you get a carpet that has like stain master or scotch guard or whatever the heck that is, those are petrochemicals that are endocrine disrupting and carcinogenic. It's the same stuff they put in non-stick cookware that is so bad for you. So if you can buy um, a new product without the stain stuff on it, that's great. I know that there are companies that you can build new furniture and ask them not to put that stuff on it, or you can buy used and the stuff is already off gassed. Like when I moved to my new house, I bought a vintage sofa from the Habitat for Humanity store. It was from the 70s. So there was no like stuff on it, which was great. And it's built with like solid lumber, unlike the particle board that people build furniture out of now. So great. I was going to spend like thousands of dollars on a new sofa with like modules and consoles and recliners built in and stuff. And instead, I went for the heavy, heavy, heavy sofa from the 1970s. And it was great. And we like it. We can lounge on it. It's longer than regular sofas these days, much longer. I don't know. I don't know why it's so big. But yes, so stain treatments on carpets, on floors, on rugs, the kind of insulation that you use, if you're going to re-insulate your home, please take a look at its environmental makeup. Decking, a lot of people are using plastic decking, but honestly, cypress, I know it's a little more expensive, but it'll last a lifetime. The kind of paint that you use, there is non-toxic paint out there. So think about, you're going to have to smell that paint for weeks after you paint. When you smell something, it means those chemicals are going into your body, right? Like you're inhaling them. Uh, you're either inhaling bacon in the morning or coffee, you inhale it, but you can also inhale paint. The mattresses that you buy. So there are so many different mattresses out there, and a lot of them are made with synthetic toxins. And you sleep on it every night. You're breathing it in every night. So think about when you need a new mattress, what you can do for green alternatives. They're out there. They definitely are. So think about, okay, as you're going through the different rooms in your home and you're doing this home audit that I suggest you do, when you get to the bedroom, it's like, how many more years are left in your mattress? Is it 7? Okay, 7 more years. So in 7 years, you have 7 years to figure out what replacement you want that is non toxic. I'm not telling you to chuck everything out of your house right now. That's obviously not economically viable for most people. But as you are replacing things, as you find great alternatives that you can afford, replace. Um, it's a whole process. Eventually, you'll get to the place like me where you don't have any toxic cookware or appliances. All of your little gadgets are made of wood and metal, um, and that's great. But like, there's still stuff that I can replace, especially furniture. Right? Furniture is a big deal, and it costs a lot of money, and it's an investment that should last many, 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 many years. So if it's going to do that, let's make sure that it's not poisoning your home for many, 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 many years. So I know I've said this a couple times, but I've also given you the doom and gloom report for this whole session. So you are in control of what you put in and on your body and what you bring in to your home. I advise you to follow the precautionary principle, which means if you know something is potentially harmful, you should avoid it. If you're not sure, you should choose something you are sure about. Um, and the more often you make those choices in that way, um, the healthier you're going to be. Emphasizing caution and not just, taking things at face value before you make decisions to bring things into your home and get intimate with it. Um, we can avoid a lot of heartache by just being cautious. Um, I sometimes annoy my friends. They're like, "Oh, look at what I got," and I'm looking at it and I'm like, "What is this? What is that? Do we know what this is?" you know? And I'm like, let's find out. And they're like, oh, I don't want to know. I'm like, yes, you do want to know. You totally want to know. I know you just bought this thing, but let's find out. And then you can decide to throw it away. Yeah. So being cautious and really making informed choices. That's what I'm talking about. Empowering yourself with knowledge, really doing that work to figure out what it is that you actually want versus what you have, and working towards replacing those things. You can also make your own. It is so empowering and cheap to make your own cleaning supplies. Um, you can clean everything in your home with the 5 ingredients that are listed up there. Apple cider vinegar infused with thyme, and you can use dried thyme or fresh thyme, doesn't matter. White distilled vinegar, baking soda. I buy it in bulk. Liquid Castile soap, like Baby Dr. Bronner's, that doesn't have the essential oils in it. You can also find other plain Castile soaps. Castile, by the way, a lot of people don't know what Castile means. It just means it's a vegetable based soap. There are soaps made with tallow or lard or goat's milk as the fat, because soap is where you take lye and you saponify those fats. And so Castile soap is like a vegetarian soap. And then rubbing alcohol. Those 5 things, that's all you need. And they're all really cheap. You do not need anything else. Um, and if you don't want to make your own, here are some brands that I really like. So if you've never heard of Azure Standard, they're an old timey company based out of Oregon, and you can join an Azure Drop. There is one in Columbus. You basically order online and you join the drop, and once a month you go to the drop site, pick up your stuff, you've paid for it online or whatever. You join the drop, you take your stuff home, you buy it in bulk. They are an all natural company. They grow a lot of the food. So it's not just cleaning products, they also have organic food, and herbs and all kinds of stuff. They even started making things that they used to carry, but then they were bought by big conglomerates and cheapened and toxic. So like BioClean, which is the last brand, like not EcoVare, not seventh generation, not BioClean. I used to buy BioClean products, and then they were bought by Unilever. And it's inevitable once a big company buys one of these green companies that do really well and start getting nationally distributed. Tom's of Maine is an example, or Burt's Bees is an example of this. They buy the company, they don't change the name or the packaging, but they change the formulas and they make them cheaper and more toxic. And this has happened many, many times. So it's really important to know who you're getting stuff from, and do you trust them, and do they have a dedication to this. And Azure Standard is one of those companies where once BioClean was bought by Unilever, they immediately put all of their existing BioClean inventory on clearance, and they're like, we're no longer carrying this, and we're buying a factory and we're going to start making. They bought the recipes from BioClean and they started making all the BioClean products under the Azure Standard label. I really love this company. Like, I don't know about them personally, like what their opinions are on anything, but I do know that they believe in providing clean, healthy food and cleaning supplies to everyone. So there is an Azure Drop in Columbus if you're interested. I'm at an Azure Drop here where I am as well. And once a month I get, bulk popcorn and laundry detergent, for example. Berkeley Green is a company that makes all cleaning products. You can, just search their name and find out who is carrying them. They do it wholesale to other companies, so you'll have to find out. Blue Land is direct. If you have a dishwasher that you use and you're looking for little dishwasher, tablets or pouches or whatever, you can get a plastic free dishwasher tablet that you can put in the little drawer. Because those pouches that are like goopy, that's plastic on the outside. You don't want to use that. So using their tablets is a really nice way of reducing the plastic in the environment. Charlie Soap is also a good clean company. I really like their stain treatment that you like spray your clothes with before you wash them. Like if you're waiting to do a load, you spray the stain. Really great stuff. Drainbow is a company that will help you eliminate those toxic drain cleaners. Those things are so nasty, and everybody knows they're nasty, right? You wear gloves, you don't want to breathe it in too much, but you're pouring it down the drain. Where do you think that goes, right? It goes into our waterways. So Drainbow uses natural enzymes and citrus to clean out clogs. And they even have one where you can just once a month put some stuff down there and it cleans it out so that you don't get clogs. Much better to prevent than to treat. Dr. Bronner's still, the hippies were right, right? Like they used Dr. Bronner's back in the day, and it's still a reputable company. They still use fair trade oils. They're still clean. They still have a dedication to cleanliness and fairness in labor practices. I really love Dr. Bronner's. I think they're great. And Planet is also a brand. Sometimes you can find it at Kroger or whatever. They have brands that are still small and clean. But again, not EcoVare, not seventh generation, not BioClean. They're all owned by big conglomerates like Procter and Gamble and Unilever, and you can't trust them. You just can't. So it is time for questions. I am super happy to answer all your questions. Um, Time check. Ooh, we got 15 minutes. Okay, let's do it.
So the first question in the chat is, what do you suggest for a good oven cleaner? I don't use oven cleaners or the clean cycle.
Excellent. Well, what I would do is I would make a paste with baking soda and some soap, make a paste. Take all the racks out. You're gonna have to clean the racks separately. But go ahead and put it on your hard to clean areas where things have like burned on, uh, and let it soak for a bit and then scrub. And if you still need to get more off, you can put another layer of paste on. It it's a step process where you have to do it in steps sometimes if it's really bad. But if you do it more frequently, like once a month, you're just gonna, tackle your oven, it becomes really easy. It's about, not letting it build up. But again, baking soda and soap, super easy.
Excellent. I think you answered the second question. What vinegar do you use with thyme? In your slide about making your own, you had mentioned apple cider vinegar, but can you also use like white vinegar or just any vinegar?
Yeah, and some people would prefer to use white distilled vinegar over apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar can leave like cloudiness because there's, raw mother inside. So if you're looking for a glass cleaner, for example, a white vinegar would be better because it's not going to leave those cloudy streaks on your mirror. Hmm.
And then what ingredients to look for to make hand soap?
Hand soap. Well, frankly, I would just buy clean soap. And if you can avoid plastic, even better. Like I use bar soap for my hands at sinks, and I use a bar shampoo. I don't want to use plastic bottles, so I use bar soap for that sort of thing. And I really like, there's a bunch of different bar soaps that you can do, but what's really great is going to the farmer's market and stocking up on all these beautifully made scented soaps that are by someone local. I guarantee you there's some soap maker at your local farmer's market, and you can ask them directly, like, what are you putting in your soap? What are your oils? What do you use for fragrance? If they look like technicolored, avoid those. But if they're more natural colors, chances are they're using like clays and mica to make different colors. Um, but yeah, there are great local soap makers, and I would just buy bar soap. If you really want liquid soap, then to avoid plastic as much as possible, I would buy Dr. Bronner's in a gallon jug and then, pour it out into your glass pump dispensers. But honestly, liquid soap isn't really necessary. It's sort of a thing we've gotten used to and that we like. But like I said, I use bar soap.
And then what about dryer sheets?
Dryer sheets are very toxic, and the scent that comes from both dryer sheets and those weird little sprinkles that you're supposed to put in your wash, please avoid those. Those are so bad for you. Um, and honestly, people like me, when we go walking in a neighborhood and somebody has the dryer on that has those scented dryer sheets, I have to run because it will give me a migraine immediately. They are just terrible for the environment. They're terrible for you. Instead of dryer sheets, go ahead and get those wool balls. They will eliminate static so that things aren't, sticking together. Although we're kind of out of that season now, so you don't have to worry so much about that. And if you really want a scent, you can actually put some essential oil drops on your dryer balls and it will heat up and make everything smell like lavender or whatever it is that you like. It'll also be cheaper in the long run to just invest in, some $6 dryer balls and a bottle of essential oil that you like. Yeah.
Great. And then what about washer sheets versus pods?
So the sheets do not have plastics in them, and there are companies that you can buy washer sheets from direct that are very clean, and they use minimal ingredients. The pods, not so great. Those pods for both dishwashers and washing machines are plastics. So you're contributing to microplastics in the environment, in your clothes, in your body. So I use a dry powder washing detergent, so that I avoid plastic pourers, and it's also more economical, frankly. I buy it from Azure Standard. They have really good, and they have liquids too, but again, I'm trying to avoid as much plastic in my life as possible. So I buy the powder.
Is there a good body wash you like?
Bar soap. Body wash comes in plastic bottles, and I don't know. I haven't found that it feels any better than washing my body and then putting on lotion or body oil. I do that after every shower because I'm menopausal, right? I got dry skin. And so I need to moisturize every time. So rather than using a product that proclaims to moisturize, but then you lose it as soon as you dry off, I would much rather clean my body and then moisturize as a second step. And so I make my own lotions, Haven Herbs lotions, and I do a different scent every month, so I get to enjoy that because people who are buying, May's scent, which is Field of Flowers, I get to have Field of Flowers in May. Or if I made more unscented, like I'll use the unscented or whatever. But I do that, or I will do on my face, I have an oil serum that I use. Um, and it's full of pressed oils that help regenerate skin cells to kind of help with the lines, which I am accruing right here and right here. Um, so I use an oil serum after on my face, and I use a lotion all over after washing. I much prefer that to body wash. Although I will say in the winter, when everything's super dry and my skin dries out, one thing I will do is I will make myself a sugar scrub. Cheap sugar, like white refined sugar. You infuse it with olive oil and maybe a scent that you like some sort of essential oil. Um, and then you can use it on your body, scrub, 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 get all those dead skin cells off. Um, and it leaves the oil residue like on your skin. And when you dry, it's less, right? And so my skin is so dry that it literally sucks it all in, and I don't have to worry about getting my towels oily. If you are an oilier person than me, you might not want to do that. But if you're a dry person, like I do a sugar scrub in the winter, and in the summer, all I do is wash and then moisturize.
What proportion of vinegar to mix to be safe to not pit countertops?
Um, Yeah, so I would first infuse your vinegar. Like if you're going to infuse it with thyme, for example, I would do it straight. And then when you have your concentrate, then you can dilute it for sensitive surfaces like stone. And so what I would do is I would create your concentrate and keep that in a separate container, and then do a 1-to-1, half and half of water to vinegar.
So the Christie goes back to the dishwasher question and says, so no liquid dishwasher stuff.
I mean, if you're trying to avoid plastics like me, yeah, because it's really hard to find it not packaged in plastic.
And then, do you think body oil is a better moisturizer than lotion?
So it depends, right? Everybody's skin's a little different, but here's what I will say. It depends on the oil and it depends on the lotion. Most lotions you buy in commercial stores are years old. Um, I say this in my body care class a lot too. So if you've been there, forgive the repetition. But by the time you get it, by the time you pick it up off of the CVS shelf or the Walmart shelf or the Kroger shelf, it is a couple years old because first it gets made, and then it goes to a manufacturer's warehouse. That manufacturer's warehouse ships to a distributor's warehouse. The distributor's warehouse ships to a retailer's warehouse. The retailer's warehouse ships it to retail stores. And then it sits in the back until it's ready to go onto a shelf, customer facing. So, in order for that supply chain to happen, it takes at least a year. And what natural product do you know that contains moisture that wouldn't mold and get disgusting without some help, without some chemical synthetic fungicides in it, right? That's what's happening. So when you buy a lotion from a big box store, you're putting fungicides on your skin, which kills your microbiome too. Um, and it a lot of those things are full of parabens. Parabens are the fungicides, by the way. Um, and you're just toxifying your body. So what I recommend is buying a lotion that is number one, small batch, number two, packaged in glass, and number three, made by someone you trust, not a big faceless company with an 800 number. You can often get those at farmers markets from local makers. Ask them what they use for their preservative um, because there are still a lot of people making all natural lotions that still put shelf stabilizers and fungicides in them. When I make lotion, I use radish root ferment. It's literally fermented radishes, which is a probiotic. So those good bacteria will kill bad bacteria and fungus that start to grow. It inhibits mold for about 30 days. So when I ship out lotion, I'm shipping out a 30-day supply. And I don't have lotion just sitting around. I literally do it by pre-order. People order their lotion, and on the 15th of the month, I make the lotions and I ship them out, or you can like subscribe. There's a subscription program too. But again, I'm making them and immediately shipping them out. So you're getting your lotion as fresh as possible, packaged in glass with a preservative that will last you about a month. And so that's a lot, and not all companies are willing to to do that. But I like lotion, and I use lotion, and I want to be able to provide safe lotion to people. So that is what I do. I jump through extra hoops.
And then
So the comparison of body oil to lotion. So if you are using a lotion like the ones that I make, lotion has the benefit of having oils and liquids emulsified together. They absorb easier into the skin. Oil, depending on your skin type, can often sit on top of the skin and leave it greasy. So it just depends on your skin type, depends on how dry you are, and it depends on what type of oil or lotion you're using. So I know that it depends answer, but I hope that that gives you a little bit more information.
we have time for one last question. Could you explain EWG a little more?
Sure. So they're an independent nonprofit organization. It stands for Environmental Working Group. And what they do is they use the donations that they get to investigate different kinds of products and also water supplies. They have a whole water database. You can investigate the tap water in your area and what's in it. So they do all of this work to help us as consumers understand what is in our environment, in our products, in our water, in our air. Um, and so they're totally a worthy cause to support. If you're looking to put some money in a nonprofit that makes a difference in people's lives, like I recommend EWG. They're also the ones that they're most famous for publishing the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. So the Dirty Dozen are the top 12 chemical laden, pesticide laden produce that you want to avoid in the store unless you're buying it organic, right? So they publish a list every year. And so they do produce sampling from all over the country and figure out which are the Dirty Dozen this year. And then they publish the Clean 15, which are products that have very little pesticide residue in them in commercial produce. So you don't have to buy it organic unless you want to. And I think that that's a really valuable service. So when you go to their website, there's a lot there. You could spend days looking at all of their reports, looking at all their databases. I would start with a specific goal in mind and go there because yeah, you'll return again and again once you start looking at the products in your home and how you can replace them with cleaner ones. So I hope that explains EWG. And I don't get paid by them. I just like them a lot.
Well, Lily, that brings us to the top of the hour. Thank you so very much for your time and your expertise. I hope everybody joins us in May, on May 27th. Lily will be back with us, and she's going to be doing Fun in the Sun, and she's going to be talking about bug spray and sunscreens and how to make safer choices with those. So I started the top of the hour out talking with Lily and saying, Happy Earth Day. So I will say the same thing at the closing. Happy Earth Day, everybody. Enjoy the rest of this beautiful day, and we will see you in May.
Thank you. Thank you.